It's inevitable. Those things are going to come up. And again, it's about mental fitness. So how mentally fit are you to manage those self-sabotaging thoughts that come in? We all have them. Humans all have them, the judge and all those other elements. That negative self-talk. How aware are you of that? And then how quickly can you move through it and come back into a more positive way of responding? So rather than being reactive, so things don't go well, you react and you fall into a heap. Well, okay, that's a moment. We don't want to be in a heap for a week or a month or whatever. We want to feel it and then realign, come back, and hopefully come back with the lesson and also a more positive response.
Welcome to Resilient Entrepreneurs, the podcast where we celebrate the inspiring stories of entrepreneurs who've overcome challenges and built successful businesses. Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Sandra Gartner, who has built and sold a multi-million-dollar company. Now she focuses on coaching small business owners to fully reap the rewards of their efforts. She's worked with over 1,000 business owners in the past 12 years. Sandra, welcome to Resilient Entrepreneurs.
Thanks for having me. I'm very happy to be here.
Sandra, you've worked with so many businesses. Is there something that you see in most of them that is the secret to success?
Gee, that's such a big question. And I think...
I know, way to start off with like a banger.
Let's go right into it.
Okay. I've worked a lot in the startup world, and I think what I see, which indicates people have got a greater likelihood of success, is their own internal capabilities in terms of leading themselves through challenges, difficulties, upsets, all those things that businesses will throw up at you, particularly, throughout the lifespan of a business, but in those first couple of years when it's so new often and there's so many elements to the business that you're not familiar with, there's so much learning. It comes back to who you are, how you take on the role of a business owner. And if you can step into that fully and continue to grow through that and believe that you're capable of realizing that vision that you have, even though you mightn't be fully sure of how to get there, which often you aren't, then that's going to put you in a better position than someone that comes in really without any awareness of their own way of leading themselves or leading their business or leading their team, and think it's just a matter of one, a strategy or an action plan, which are important, no doubt, but there's a lot more involved than just implementing steps along the way. So I think definitely it's about who the person is, how they can develop and grow through the growth of the business that's going to really play a key role in how they build that business to success.
So that growth mindset you think is really key?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I absolutely do. And it is about knowing that it's a journey. It's not an easy pathway. Otherwise, as they say, we'd all do it. There's going to be ups and downs, and it doesn't matter what, where you are in the cycle of the business, there's going to be those moments of, huge celebration and then massive disappointment. And it's what you do with that that's really important. On either end, it's what you do with it, because it's only a moment in time, and we've got to be able to regroup, regather, refocus, reset, and then keep moving towards that picture we've got into the future. So yeah.
That sounds like a definition of resilience. Is that how would you describe resilience?
Yeah, well, I've got a very clear, very simple definition. For me, it is risk, and then in inverted commas, fail. So in inverted commas, fail. So take a risk, fail, and then repeat. That's my formula.
Yes, that's powerful. Risk, fail, repeat.
Yep, and on and on and on. And so the more you can do that, the more comfortable you're going to get. And the earlier that can start, the better. I'm a big believer in that. And we want our kids to know that it's okay to take a risk, and that failure in my world, and I think it's absolutely the way you've got to look at failure, it's feedback to learn, to grow, and then repeat. And you get more and more comfortable with it over time. And you can think about simply the baby learning to walk. I mean, that's the classic example. Take a risk, fall over, get up and go again. And the baby has no awareness of anything external to itself that might hold it back. It just has a drive to want to do it. It's only when we get later that external awareness, the self-consciousness, the critical thinking or the criticism they might be feeling, the shame you might be feeling if you fail, all that stuff, that can slow you down. So you've got to manage that and just repeat.
Is that where like coaching can help someone? Because I think it's probably very common feelings that most of us entrepreneurs have had or have had often in business.
Oh, look, it's inevitable. Those things are going to come up. And again, it's about mental fitness. So how mentally fit are you to manage those self-sabotaging thoughts that come in? We all have them. Humans all have them, the judge and all those other elements, negative self-talk. How aware are you of that? And then how quickly can you move through it and come back into a more positive way of responding? So rather than being reactive, so things don't go well, you react and you fall into a heap. Well, okay, that's a moment. We don't want to be in a heap for a week or a month or whatever. We want to feel it and then realign, come back, and coaching is very important for that with the lesson.
Yeah,
and
easier
also
said than done, though, right, Sandra?
response.
How do you help people who really get stuck?
Well, gee, that's again another big question. So
I'm good with
about
this. There's more coming.
yeah, good. Look, getting stuck means different things to different people. So if I asked you what is stuck, you would give me a different answer than maybe Laura would. There's often a lot of feelings around stuck. It's I'm frustrated, I'm overwhelmed, I don't know where to go, I'm second guessing myself, I'm too afraid to move forward. So it's sort of important to understand more deeply what stuck means, what is stuck to you. And then I always think people that get stuck, and we all have done that, and I have done that, there is some commitment to being stuck. I mean, you're there, you're not taking that step out of being stuck, are you? And it could be I'm afraid, I'm comfortable where I am. I don't know, I'm uncertain of the future, so I'm going to stay where I am. So there's a commitment to that on some deeper level. So we've got to understand that, you've got a commitment to that because you've stayed there for however long you've stayed there. So what would it look like if we moved just one step forward in a direction that you want to go towards your goal? What would that bring up for you? What one step could we take that might get you feeling a bit more aligned, a bit more energized, a bit more motivated to keep moving forward? And then look at the commitment you could have to your future. So I'm committed to being stuck. My commitment to the future is I want to build a successful business with freedom and choice and money and whatever it might be, travel, whatever it might be. Well, let's look at, we've got to overcome the being stuck feeling and make a movement towards the bigger picture. And sometimes it's just micro steps to get moving. And then there's some simple things you can do. It's amazing how confidence can just build if you think about what's something that can easily be achieved that might push you out of your comfort zone a little bit, and you'll get a great sense of satisfaction from that. And that can be just a starting point to move forward.
Yeah, it's just like that 1% rule. If you're just 1% better today than yesterday, in 100 days, you're 100% better.
That's
right?
it.
It all adds up and compounds, right? But sometimes it's that first step.
Yeah.
So I like what you just shared there. I think that's really accurate. Mel Robbins said, when you're procrastinating getting out of bed, you're procrastinating on starting your day. Like just slither out of bed. And like the image of someone just slithering out of bed is hilarious. But the point is just to move, right? Just to move out of your comfort spot, your comfort zone, and go to the next part of the day. Which could just
that's a great analogy because it's so comfortable in bed, and some days you just want to stay there, but you've got a commitment to get up and do some exercise, and your sneakers or your runners are by the bed. You've done all the things that make it more compelling, and you've set it up so hopefully you can take that step forward.
Yeah, and less friction between what you want and where you're at. So like you just said, the shoes by the bed is a great trick to get
Mm.
you to get up and go do the run or the walk or whatever.
Yeah, that's it. You want to make sure that you've got everything in place that supports you to stay on track. And, again, easier said than done, as Vicky said, because it's easier to fall off the track, but you just want to regroup, come back and look at how you can set things up in a way that can keep you moving that 1%.
Yeah, I like the shoes by the bed analogy, or actually that practice in real life. Because if you're really kind of in that stuck place of knowing that you should or want to exercise, but you're just not feeling it, you've made the commitment the night before to do it, right? You've already resolved that you're going to do it in the morning. So if you don't do it, you're really letting yourself down. And there's no worse feeling in the world than that. That would, I imagine, perpetuate the cycle of doom.
And it becomes an ever reductionist sort of cycle going down further and further. So you've got to try and reverse that and have the spiral going up, a success spiral, I call it. We want to build a success spiral, and that success spiral builds confidence, because people often think, I don't have the confidence to, for example, pick up the phone and make a sales call. I don't have the confidence. Well, you've got to take the action to get the confidence. So it's building confidence through imperfect action, building that success spiral, which builds confidence.
When I first learned, like, someone just said, you're gonna be bad at it when you first do it. So just accept that. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, well, if I'm expected to be bad, then I'm just gonna go ahead and do it. Like 2-3 years ago, if you told me I would be doing a podcast today, I would never, because I didn't have the confidence to do a podcast today then. But now it's like, but it takes time and doing it imperfectly and messing it up. And we've made plenty of mistakes along the way. And it's been an interesting journey.
Now it's one of our favorite things to do.
Yeah, and it's great to celebrate those, messings it up, when you make a mistake. Sometimes you think, okay, we just didn't do that. Well, we'll learn from it and we'll move on. I think, having some fun along the way is so important. It doesn't need to be all serious.
Fun is indeed one of our corporate values. When you go to our website, fun is one of our values. It's right there. I think we believe that business is not just about making money. It's about adding value to people and having fun while we do it, and making an impact in the world in some way, whether that's by helping our clients make more impact or by giving back as we do through our B1G1 program. That's all part of the fun of it, right? It feels good to do it. Yeah. So, Sandra, you talked about, the whole self-leadership and having those skills. And that's really a part of your unique approach to helping people be successful in their small business. So I guess what we've talked about is a little bit why that's important. But what would you say would be a top self-leadership skill? What do people really need to win in their small business as they start or grow?
Well, I think number one is always awareness. I mean, they've got to have some awareness of their own sense of self and how they show up, maybe where they're strong, where they need to improve. So they've got to have some awareness. And really, if you think about leaders today, we want authenticity, we want vulnerability, and that will bring people with you as you grow and develop. We want vision. We want, all those sort of elements that can really, move the business forward, but also move you forward and move your team forward. So look, it always starts with awareness, and no one can develop until they understand where they're currently at. And then it's about, what do I need to develop, bring in that can support me as a leader and support my team. And that will help grow the business.
I like that. So one thing we haven't talked about yet, but that we happen to know about you, is that you actually own your coaching and consulting business, Essentia, with your husband, Ralph.
That's right. Yes.
Well, tell us about that. Like, what's it like working with your spouse?
Yes. Well, look, it's not the first time. We have done it previously, and we've learned from that. That was a learning experience, because it is another way of having a partnership. Partnerships are wonderful, business partnerships, because as you can really be more creative, be supportive. It's that synergistic benefit that you get from being in a partnership. But when it's a spouse and a business partnership, that brings another element in that you've got to be aware of. Look, so it's fabulous. That would be the bottom line. We've been together. We've been married 30 years, so we know each other pretty well, and we've been in business before, and so we understand each other's way of operating. So we've just brought that together, really. I mean, Ralph is he's a coach. He's a fabulous coach. And his focus has been more in the corporate sector, whereas mine's been more in the SME, small to medium enterprise sector. So we come together with our skills when we need to. So we'll joint facilitate if it's appropriate. He'll do his thing, I'll do my thing. And we just sort of dance around each other and come together to deliver or move apart and deliver. So it's a lovely balance, in fact. Yeah, but not without its, without its challenges, as all partnerships are. You tend to talk about it a lot over the dinner table. Although we talk a lot about coaching and leadership, and so it's very engaging because we're very big readers, so we're sharing information, and so that's lovely. Feels very supportive.
It sounds beautiful. Absolutely
Yeah,
beautiful. Yeah.
yeah. And I guess we're at an age too, like we've been around a while, so it's definitely there's a lovely flow to it, I think I would say. Mm.
Yeah. Sounds like you'd be great mentors for people in business and in personal life, as an example of what people, I guess, would aspire to in their partnership as much as in their business.
Look, I think there's elements that run across both. I mean, it's all people skills at the end of the day. I think everything is people skills, and relationship skills, and that is important in your private life as well as your business life.
I can't help but think, Sandra, you got into coaching because you want to help people, obviously. And I think people are called to this type of work when they've experienced their own, I don't know, hurdles or difficulties.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been any particular roadblocks in business or in personal life that you're willing to share with us that you've experienced?
Mm-hmm. Look, you're right. I got into coaching because I really love small business. I was born into a small business family. Grew up. My father had a fruit and veg shop, you'd say, a couple of them in Adelaide. His father was the same, and probably way back through the lineage. So it's all been small business owners. So it was very much in my blood, in my life, in my early years. So I was very familiar with the idea of working to create your own income, being always talking about it to improve what you're doing, all the things that you need to do as a business owner. And I actually started helping my father and my mother when I was very young in the shop. So, cheap labor, as you do with your children. And that always inspired me because I saw how hard they worked, and the benefits of that, but I also saw the struggle of that. And I saw him build a really terrific business, and he had a couple of them. And then I saw things all fall apart for him, and it was based on a poor decision because he was very proud and he wasn't willing to negotiate with the landlord, and all sorts of things fell apart. And he effectively just walked out of this one business, which was his flagship store. Because he wasn't willing to, he thought he was just being hard done by and couldn't negotiate. And I think I remember that moment really clearly because all of a sudden the whole family life changed from being very, we weren't rich, but there was money around the family, to being very tight and very frugal. And so for quite a number of years after that, it was a struggle. There was a lot of struggle going on. Then he sort of found his feet again, but he never really got back to that same point. And I think from that early stage, I sort of recognized that, there possibly was another way that could have been managed. I don't know, but I'd like to think I can help people avoid making big decisions that have massive impact, a massive impact on not just their family, but maybe their community and the wider whatever groups. So it was very early in my life that I recognized that, and then I ventured in my own businesses. I've had quite a few businesses, and they've, the first one was a fail. So, I was too young. It was a cafe. I like to eat and drink. I thought, what a brilliant idea. Let's do that with a couple of girlfriends. Hey, what could go wrong? Have no idea.
Everything.
had everything could go wrong, had no idea. But,
Yeah.
we had a lot of fun. It was a fun place, fun thing to do when you're in your mid-20s, and lots of great stories out of that, but also some great learnings. And then again, things evolved, went into another business that was better, and then into another business. So I understand the journey of business. I understand it's not easy. To have someone by your side is really important. So I actually got a coach in my third business when I got to a point where I felt like I was just at a plateau. It was a wholesale distribution company. It was in the 90s. I started in 94, I think it was. And the reason I started it was I wanted to have a family. So I had a clear idea that I wanted to have a family, and I wanted to have a business that would be based at home. So I created this business from home. And probably within about 3 or 4 years, still hadn't fallen pregnant. So that was another story. But I just know that I'd got to a point where I was a bit stuck, and I got a business coach to come in and support me. And that really shifted me in very significant ways, and shifted my business. And I had that business for 14 years and then eventually sold it. So I understand, it's hard to do it on your own. You've got your own ways of operating, which if you can't bounce those ideas off people, it is difficult to get, some good perspective around what might be going on. And I just thought, well, look, I really have got a lot of experience. I'd love to support others in business. And I just sort of fell into it, to be honest, about 12 years ago, and I've been doing it ever since.
It sounds like that business coach had a pretty major impact on you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And I think it was there weren't a lot of business coaches around at that time. It wasn't like today, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But in the 90s it was just a recommendation, and they really just sat down with me and gave me a whole other perspective of what was going on and what might support me to get to where I wanted to go. So yeah, personally, I found so much value in that. Mm.
It really helps to know that you have walked in the shoes of the people that you work
Yeah.
with. Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
And earlier you talked about really understanding and taking on the role of
Mm.
a business person.
Mm.
So, or a business owner.
Mm.
How do you describe that role? What does
Mm.
it look like to be a business owner, a successful business owner?
So I think success again is a definition that everyone will have a different understanding of. So some people define being successful as the financial reward, a lifestyle, their contribution, the impact they're having in the world or on individuals. So success is very individual. So you want to know what success is for you. And then once you sort of understand that, so it's a bit about your values and why you're doing this in the first place. So hopefully that's clear. You've got a strong why, and then to step into that business owner that can take that business forward. I guess the thing is, with the startup world, often people come into that having come out of employment, or maybe they've been students, they've come out of university, or they might have had some businesses in the past, and they come into it with I'm an employee hat on, or I'm a student hat on. And the transition to being a business owner isn't overnight. It takes time. And you've got to understand what elements of owning the business and the qualities or the properties you want to demonstrate and develop, the characteristics you want to develop to lead that business. So it is about confidence. It's about understanding, why you're doing this, where you're heading. A lot of courage involved. It's not for the faint-hearted. A lot of skills around communication and learning. I think learning's really important. You've got to be a learner. Um, Constantly curious, constantly questioning. Don't think you're right. Don't think you have the answers, because you don't have all the answers. Explore, see what else you can find out, ask people for suggestions or advice. That's a leader. That's someone that's open and looking at, what possibilities there are, because sometimes we're very narrow focused and we don't see all the various elements. We don't see everything that's interconnected, or if I do something over here, it might have an impact, over here, some distance away. You don't see the connection between it all. So you've got to try and have that bigger perspective, and it's not easy unless you stay open and curious and get support and get some feedback.
Oh,
But
yeah,
anyway,
definitely.
there
And
we
it
go.
leads me to ask you, do you think entrepreneurship is for everyone? Do you think anyone can do this?
I'd love to say yes, because in my world, there's no greater vehicle for personal development than starting and building a business. You're going to learn a lot about yourself, but there's other vehicles to learn about yourself. It doesn't have to be business. And some people that are risk averse, are comfortable in knowing a role or a job and like the routine of their day to day and the certainty of an income, and are not really willing to step off the ledge, because there is a leap of faith. At some point, you've got to leap off that cliff top, knowing that, hoping the parachute will open, but you're not 100% sure. So if you're not willing to jump off the cliff top, then maybe you need to do a bit more work and get yourself ready for that leap. Not to say you couldn't get there, but I think you want to be fully aware of what you're going into. And even if you just start the learning process, so learn about entrepreneurship, learn if you have a business idea, do the research, get a bit of a plan together, work out if it's got some legs. Again, talk to people. And then you might say, no, it's not for me. But you've had a wonderful experience of exploring an idea, and that really has got value in itself. Or you might say, yeah, this is for me. I reckon this is going to work. I'm willing to give it a go. So look, is it for everybody? I think it's a hard question to answer. I'd like to say yes, but possibly you've got to look at it a bit more deeply.
Yeah, I think that's a really hard question to answer too. I totally agree with you. I think it's a lot about mindset and personal development and being willing to have that growth mindset. I think is probably the biggest key, because you've got to grow and you are going to grow whether you like it or not, because it's that risk, fail, risk, fail, risk, fail pattern that you've got to be open to and grow and learn from. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, and I do love that there are so many more coaches out there in the world now that are accessible, that can help you get unstuck. That's a message to the entrepreneurs out there. Like, don't sit stuck in a place. There are people that can help you just see it from a different perspective. What would you like to just say to someone who is sitting there alone, that solo entrepreneur, kind of freaking out, maybe had a failure, questioning what to do next?
Okay, the first thing, you got to just reach out and talk to someone. People, there's plenty of places you can go, whether it's just finding a business networking group, either online or in person, where you can actually talk to other people on the journey. That's forever useful, just to know that you're not alone. And you'll get ideas, you'll learn stuff, but you'll feel supported in some way, that you're not just working in this vacuum, which can be so difficult for solo operators. You've just got to reach out. You've got to muster the energy, muster the effort to either pick up the phone, go and meet people, talk to someone, find someone on LinkedIn that you like, and can I have a conversation with you? People are very willing to talk. I mean, I'm always talking to people.
Really? You do that? You reach out to someone you've never met on LinkedIn and
Yeah.
ask for a conversation?
Yes, of
Can you
course.
talk more to that? Because I think that's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
fantastic idea.
Yeah. LinkedIn's a wonderful platform for that. And you've got to make the request. I love what you're doing. I'd love to hear more about it. Could we have a conversation? People are very willing to say yes. And through that, not only can I potentially find support, but I can also find referral partners. So people that we can have a referral relationship with. I can understand what they do that might support my clients. I just feel like I'm not so much sitting behind my computer all the time talking to myself or my clients, but I'm actually talking to other people that are generally working with other businesses or are small business owners. Now, LinkedIn's a great platform for that. It's surprising how generous people are.
I think that's a great idea. Maybe that's maybe stepping outside of a comfort zone for a lot of our audience. And, that might be one tiny little challenge they could take away from this conversation too.
Yeah. It is, it's whatever you can just to reach out. I think if you're feeling stuck, you want to generate some possibilities, and a conversation is where possibilities will start.
So, Sandra, you've shared with us a wealth of experience, and I'm certain that it has left our audience with a lot of comfort from what you've said, and also perhaps some questions. So if they wanted to talk to you more about these topics and about how they can move their business forward or their personal confidence and so forth forward, what is the best way for them to get in touch with you?
Well, there's a couple of ways. One is just to find me on LinkedIn, Sandra Gartner. You'll find me on LinkedIn. Just connect with me that way, and that's an easy access. The other way, of course, is through the website, which is essentiacoaching.com.au, ESSENTIA coaching.com.au, and you can contact me that way as well.
Fantastic. And I think you offer a mental fitness assessment.
Yeah, so a part of my program is really about supporting you, as we talked about, building that mental fitness, building that capability to deal with the stresses that come at you in life and in business in a positive way rather than a reactive, negative way. So I'm trained as a mental fitness coach, amongst other things, and we offer basically it's a 6-week foundational piece to build your mental fitness. So build your capacity and build awareness around what might be sabotaging your efforts. So people can do a 5-minute, it's called a saboteur assessment. Again, on my website, just go there. You'll see it, hit the button. It takes 5 minutes. And what will come out of that will be a report basically that highlights, there's 9 saboteurs, and it will rank them, and you get lots of information about what you tend to revert to under pressure, the common ways of habitually responding. And it's really very accurate. People are always amazed how it really does hit the mark. And from there, of course, as I said, awareness is the first step. So once you really start to understand this is habitually how I operate, we need to then learn some flexibility and choose more flexible ways of operating. And that's what we do within the coaching program, but also then build in the whole business building aspect to it as well. So we work in the business and we work inside the business owner in their mental capabilities or their mental fitness.
Oh my goodness, it's fascinating. I think I'm going to run over and do that now. I think even if you're successful, it's important to be mindful of what your saboteurs are. And if that's your default mechanism and you can catch yourself going to that state, wow, that's going to be powerful. And who doesn't love a quiz anyway?
That's it. And it's quick
Yeah.
and it's easy and it's really interesting and very informative. So
yeah,
go and do it.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, we will leave it there. We just want to thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, your experience, for sharing candidly what you've been through personally and some stories about your family. And wish you all the best. And thank you again.
Thanks for having me. Bye.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of Resilient Entrepreneurs. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our amazing guest and learned something new about resilience and entrepreneurship.
Remember, resilience isn't just a trait, it's a skill that can be learned and developed. And if you want to stay connected with us and hear more inspiring stories, be sure to hit that subscribe button and follow us on social media.
And if you know somebody who's a resilient entrepreneur and would be a great guest on our show, we want to hear from you. Please reach out.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Resilient Entrepreneurs.